Alrighty guys, I think this should be live. We will find out in a second as always. But yeah, hello. How's it going? Angus here from Makers Muse and welcome to our Sunday stream here on the channel. We'll wait to see if people start seeing it in the chat. And not sure if it's working. Current bitrate is lower than recommended bitrate. Cool, alright. So it should pop up on your screen. Just refresh the main page. Home. How's it going, guys? So sorry about that. It seems to say the stream bitrate is lower than recommended, but if it's working, which is awesome. So yeah, welcome to Makers Muse, guys. So today it's all about some Q&A, as always, but also I'm trying to figure out what is going on with the Cetus. So for those who would have seen, the Cetus had problems printing in PLA. So what I've done is I've gathered up all the PLA I can find, like that I have, and I'm testing it by printing various maker coins. I've also got the Up Mini 2, which I'm about to start printing as well. The Up Mini 2 is a bit of a princess, and I need to redo the nozzle height because it just decided not to be, it was too close. But yeah, I'm going to get that going as well, and we're going to test out some things. Yes, so Lady Muse now has her own little thing, and she's going to be in the comments, and any questions she'll pass them along and let me know. So I'm good guys. I really do appreciate you joining me here. And yeah, it's been a pretty crazy few weeks, but we're finally settling in, which is awesome. So let me just do the nozzle height on the Up Mini, and I'm going to get that thing going. So for those who don't know, the temperature's too high. Okay, let it cool down. The Up Mini 2 actually has an automatic nozzle height detection, which is pretty cool, like the Up box has. So you can set the nozzle height using that. And I was trying to get some nylon to print on it. Didn't work. Nylon Toolman 618. It's just too hard to print and I couldn't get it to stick down, but that's why the nozzle height's too close on that. So see if I can, it's got to cool down a bit more. That's fine. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm currently printing on the Cetus, I'm printing eSun Pink. That roll of eSun is more than a year old. It's certainly not very good quality. It's pretty old. It's been open for a long time. It's definitely moisture damaged, but to be honest, it hasn't started clicking yet, which is a good sign because as I'm going through, I've got this this little pen. I'm going to be marking on the rolls if they work or not, and I will do a follow-up video for people telling them what filaments I got to work on the Cetus.
Hey Angus?
Yes.
Shai asks, what's your thoughts on the 32-bit printer boards?
Okay, that's a good question. Like the smoothie board, I think the smoothie board's 32-bit. So you're gonna get a more powerful control board, which in theory means a smoother control of your motion and faster response rates in the printer, which means in theory a better finish and faster speeds. So I've only ever printed, well, my only experience with printer boards has been ramps. I haven't built a printer with anything apart from ramps yet, which is definitely not the best these days. It's pretty low end, but for the 32-bit board you will get a higher quality finish, although it does come down to your mechanics as well. So from what I understand, the CraftBot Plus has a 32-bit control board, and that machine prints well, but the frame, the bed still is a bit wobbly, so that in turn ends up with some print artifacts. But yeah, I'd just buy whatever you can afford. If you're building your own printer, you can always upgrade the control board later. I would recommend, to be honest, doing it on a shoestring first. So try it with a ramps because they're like $30. And if you want to improve it, move up to something like a smoothie board. But yeah, I mean, Tom would be the guy to ask for that in more detail because I haven't had any further experience with it. But it is something I'm going to be looking into more in the future. All right, let me just make sure this thing's leveled. Yeah, should be fine. All right, I'm going to start printing on the Up Mini 2. Print. So I'm printing these maker coins at 0.3mm layer heights and fast, really as quick as I can to pump them out and see if the filament jams, basically. Is that orange thing behind me a robot arm? Yes, it is. That is a KUKA KR6, and everyone's been asking about it. Basically in here, this is part of the University of New South Wales, and I've got a space here for a little while. So that's their arm. It's not mine. It's the university's arm. They've got it on loan from KUKA, and we can't fire it up yet because of a power supply requirement that this room doesn't have the 15 amps that it needs, and also the safety cage. You can't fire up an industrial robot arm without a safety cage. So it's in here just for the moment, just to look amazing. But in the next month or so, hopefully we're going to get the proper power supply wired up, and we can start doing some training. So, you know, move it to different points, compliant, and then make it repeat. Yeah, so that's the plan with the arm. Nate, good to see you too. Alright, so the Up Mini 2 seems to be warming up. The one thing about the Up Mini 2 I don't like is it's really hard to film and see inside, as you can see with the secondary camera. It's quite difficult to see. You're actually looking at the back of the machine. That's actually the back of it. It has two doors, one at the back. I don't know why, but we'll see if the nozzle height was correct. And the Up Mini 2 is printing in verbatim white. Let's double check. It's way too far. It's way too far away from the print bed, and it's already clicking. Maybe verbatim isn't very good on the ups. Oh well.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yep, just a couple. So I think you've answered Brandon's one on do you see any artifacts due to the cantilever procedures?
I don't think I've answered that. I'm sure in terms of the Cetus and the cantilever design, I'm sure there would be artifacting on that side when it's fully extended. But to be completely honest, with 3D printing, you're at a 0.4 nozzle, or even 0.2, I think that it can do. And if you want to get something fine, you print slower. The infills, when it's really going to be deviating during an infill. I don't know if that's going to be such a big deal. It's not going to be deviating too much, I think, during the outlines of the part. But yeah, I haven't done an experiment yet to do something fast on one side and the other and compared it. That might be an interesting experiment to see if the full extent of the cantilever ends up introducing artifacts. But in my general testing, the print quality has just been amazing. I've been really, really happy with the Cetus so far, considering how lightly built it is. And I think that just comes down to the rails. The rails are really nice. You can't do this design very well with rods. You do definitely need rails. So yeah, so far so good. But I'm sure there is a bit of artifacting due to the cantilever. There has to be. Yeah, the bunker would be nice on the Up Mini 2. This is not ideal. The filament cartridge the Up Mini 2 comes with is completely useless, to be honest, unless you're running their filament, which are very thin spools. Yeah. The verbatim's definitely clicking in the Up Mini, which is not a good sign.
Question?
Yep.
Okay, so Blue Spy asks, hey Angus, what do you think of Tom Prusa's i3 MK2 review?
Tom's review of the Mark. Yeah, so I haven't had time to watch Tom's review of the Prusa i3 Mark II yet, because I want to give it full attention. It's a pretty long review, and I haven't had time to watch it yet. But if it's anything like I think it is, the i3 Mark II is a really good machine, and everyone I've talked to are really enjoying it. I'm gonna say verbatim doesn't work on the Up Mini 2 because it's just clicking really bad. I'm gonna stop that and pull it out.
Brennan says pause the print and switch the filament. Then
I'm gonna have to stop it because the automatic leveling was wrong. I think there was a bit of filament on the nozzle, and it has a touch contact pad, so it's too far away. I'll show you what it looks like. I'm going to withdraw the verbatim and change to a different filament. Update on the TiVo Tarantula. TiVo's over there, and I haven't had time to touch it. It needs some work to be done, basically. Yeah. It will be a few weeks before I do the update, the part 2 review for the TiVo. I'm going to try the Cocoon Create brand PLA next, which is probably just rebranded Wanhao PLA, actually. And it should, I'm thinking this should work because the Wanhao branded PLA did work on the Cetus. And for those who don't know, the reason I'm doing the Up Mini and the Cetus, they're both from Tier Time, and they both have this all-metal hot end that's renowned to not work with some PLAs, which is what I found in my reviews of them. So this is what I'm testing. I'm testing to see which PLAs do work.
So Angus, quick question. What are your thoughts on the Doodle 3D Transform Kickstarter? Have you had a look at that yet?
What are my thoughts on the Doodle 3D Transform Kickstarter? I have not even seen that, sorry. I can't keep up with these Kickstarters at all. There's too many of them. I will have a look though.
And what about your view on the new Matter Mod T?
I also have not seen the new Matter Mod T. The old one? Are you saying the company New Matter Mod T?
Yeah, the new Matter Mod T.
Yeah, I have not looked into that very much. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's a pretty cheap machine. Yeah. Look, there's too many machines for me to just offhand comment about. I need to properly test them to make any real comment on them. I'm just going to calibrate and redo the nozzle height.
So 3D Creations Lab asks, what do you think about the Wanhao i3 Plus recall? Could it affect other printers?
Yeah. So the questions about the Wanhao i3 Plus recall, that's actually a pretty big point. The issues that Chuck ran into on Chuck Hellebuck's Electronics channel, poor Lady Muse. The issues that Chuck ran into are really serious. That could have easily been a fire, and it's something very much to keep in mind. Are you okay? Lady Muse is quietly dying in the corner. Yeah, so the recall is sort of not really a recall. It's not like you're sending the machine back. They're sending you some washers, but it is a big deal. And in my review of the i3 Plus, I didn't test that. I didn't have that issue, but my machine doesn't have washers there. So yeah, if you're running a machine for 12 hours on a print and that happens halfway through and you're asleep, it's a big problem. And it's something I'm very concerned about, these machines that are coming out of companies that haven't fully tested things. And you only find out, a few months later when something does go wrong, which is a big issue. Absolutely. I'm going to probably make a video of me upgrading mine and try to get a bit more exposure for that problem. But yeah, it is a concern. Absolutely. All right.
So Angus?
Yeah.
question from the killer. What surface do you recommend to print PETG on? And someone else also asked, I wanted to know your thoughts on PETG. How's your experience with it, and what surface do you recommend printing on it? So 2 people asked.
Okay, PETG, right. So questions are about PETG. What do you print it on, and what do you use for the? What was it? What do I recommend for settings? To be honest, the only stuff I printed PETG on was onto like build tack style surface, and that worked for me. But also it works on the print bite style surfaces as well. And Luke's mentioning PEI, but yeah, I have heard with PEI it does stick too well, and it just welds to it can weld to it if you heat it up too much. But yeah, I've printed on just build tack style surfaces, and it seems to work okay. Thing with PETG is you got to keep in mind it's a higher melting temperature than PLA, but it's still got the sort of the same softening temperatures, the plastic transition temperatures, and that means you need to cool it properly. So you need a good cooling solution, but you also need to print hotter, like 250 degrees, depending on the brand. But then, yeah, then you should have no issues. That's the eSun maker coin. So yeah, eSun seems to work on the Cetus, which is nice. Hey Bubble Whip, that's totally cool. I do hugely apologize for dropping the ball on the streams on Patreon, and it's all changing now because everything's settled in. It was a tough few weeks, absolutely. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to unload. What am I trying to do? Okay, I'm going to redo the nozzle height on the up mini 2, and I'm going to load in a new filament into the Cetus. So I guess I'll try the verbatim on the Cetus. The verbatim didn't work on the Up Mini 2, but it might work on the Cetus, who knows? And it's just decided to tangle around everything. There you go. Yeah, I'm just going to cut off some of this. Just gonna...
Getting a nice list of questions.
Okay.
Waiting to be answered.
Alright, I'll answer them in a second. Oh dear. Running 2 machines in a stream is very difficult, I will say that. Especially when they keep needing attention. Especially when you can't see them properly.
Brandon says for his PETG issues, he likes to use window tint to protect glass bits.
Yeah. So for PETG, I have heard some people use, I think window tint or like even PET tape. I don't know, thin sheets. My experiments so far with printing directly onto glass have only extended to the TiVo Tarantula and PLA, and I'm actually amazed how well that works. If you heat the bed up and have the nozzle height properly, it really does stick really well. But PETG is definitely a more kind of slippery plastic than PLA in terms of keeping it stuck down. I have found glue sticks do help as well. For the Craftbot Plus on the Print-in Z Skin, I think that's the one. I was having trouble with PETG lifting, so I put glue stick on, and that kind of helped. But it does definitely come down to personal preference. There's so many different ways to print stuff now. I think the secret is a bed that's fairly warm, maybe 50 to 60 degrees C, and a print temperature that's pretty hot, but also cooling on the part as it forms. Right, I'm going to load this into the Cetus, I think. Or maybe... I don't know, let's try printing on the Up Mini 2. Okay, print.
Okay.
Oh, close the front door. Right. It's got a sensor in the door. Doesn't like that.
Angus?
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin asks, what What do you think about 3D printing pens to help with imperfections in 3D prints? I said I'm skeptical of it, but yeah.
Yeah. So the question's about 3D printing pens and using them to fix up 3D prints. And I've been asked this a few times before. 3D printing pens, in my experience, are very much... I'm not an artist, and I see them as a novelty item. People do good things with them, but for fixing up 3D prints, you can use them to fill up gaps and sand back, and that there's only very rare cases I've done that where it's actually worked. One of them was actually bronze fill. So I printed something in bronze fill, 2 halves, stuck it together, and there was a seam, and the seam was quite obvious. So I dug out the seam and used the 3D pen to put the bronze fill into the seam and then sanded it back. And that kind of worked. You could still kind of see it, but that did work. And that was using a 3D pen to fix up a 3D print. But the only reason I did it was because bronze fill was so expensive I didn't want to reprint the whole thing.
And yes. 3D printed pens are so finicky to use.
Yeah, with 3D printing pens, they're getting better. They're quicker now than it used to be, but they're still... Yeah, really, really difficult, and you need to have a bit of an artistic flair. I use 3D printers because I'm not an artist.
Just wait for my review on one of them.
Yeah, we found a really cheap one from Kmart that Lady Muse is going to review. It's terrible. Absolutely shocking. All right, I hope this is working. All right, well, it is clicking again. We'll see if it balances itself out. Okay, now to print on the Cetus. Change my USBs.
Oreo Gaming says what he does is he has a soldering iron and then he takes a bit of filament and melts it on.
Yeah, you can use a soldering iron to remelt prints as well. But again, personally, I mean, there's a lot of those sort of those 3D print finishing tools, like the Modify 3D I reviewed a while ago. I just couldn't get them to work for me. I just found I was trashing prints with them rather than actually improving prints. I much prefer to get some wet and dry sandpaper, get your print, get some running water or like a bucket of water and just take the sandpaper and just go to town. And you'll get, if you go increasing, or was it decreasing or increasing grits? So like if you go from start with a, let's say 600 and go all the way up to like a 1200 grit, where you get a really nice finish with water to cool the part as you're sanding, you'll get a really nice finish. And I find that's much more valuable to me than these newfangled tools that people have brought onto the market. Yes, Lady Muse is going to review the pen on my channel. Well, it's our channel now, I suppose.
It's our baby.
It is our baby. Makers Muse is a baby. It needs lots of attention.
God, all the attention.
It needs all the attention and all the 3D printers.
Okay, another question?
Yes.
Okay, so Brennan Lawrence asked earlier, have you seen the design flaw that Chuck Hellebuck pointed out on the Wanhao Duplicator i3? Any thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, just going back to that, I've already talked about the i3 Plus issues that Chuck ran into, and I will be doing a video myself following up on my machine and how I fix those problems. So you can look out for that. And Bubble Whip's actually asking about 3MF and AMF formats. I will probably have to make a more informed video in future because to be completely honest, I don't know much about the differences between 3MF and AMF, but essentially 3D printing formats, STL is a dinosaur. STL as a format is way outdated. Everyone knows, you're working with triangles. It's very difficult to get like proper smooth surfaces without a huge triangle count. Something I did notice with the MakerBot release of their new software is now it can bring in different formats, even like SolidWorks, which is cool. Apart from me not liking everything else they're doing, but I definitely need to make a video and research a bit more about future file formats, because AMF, in my opinion, seems to have fallen flat on its face. I didn't see it take off. I will definitely do a more interesting video on that in future. Right, I'm going to load in this into the Cetus.
Insert waiting music here.
You can entertain me. Am I doing this the wrong way? Yes.
The eternal struggle, getting tangled in. Did you just break it? Well done, well done.
Well, it doesn't have a proper spool holder, does it?
Shall I show them the
They
thing?
can see it. Yeah. Oh well. I only have one printed spool holder so far.
They said you can't see, so.
Oh. They can't. Oh.
What have you done?
Did I break it?
I think you broke it.
Sorry. I must have broken it. The spool broke. The PLA snapped as I was trying to unwind it off the spool. So the problem with the Cetus and the UP Mini, to be honest, is they don't have a spool holder. The UP Mini spool holder is useless for anyone except their spools, and the Cetus doesn't have a spool holder. So this is one I downloaded off My Mini Factory, and it works okay, but I mean, why would you go into so much effort on a printer and then not actually have any way to hold the filament? It's a little bit counterintuitive. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that, which I won't be able to because I'm running a stream. I always look confused. Try running 2 printers, changing the filament constantly, and answering questions at the same time, and see how confused you look. Am I going to the Maker Faire next weekend? No, I'm not. Unfortunately, I could not make it.
Is that the Melbourne one?
No, that's the New York one.
Ah, no.
The New York Maker Faire. Yeah, I really wanted to go, and pretty much all the other US YouTubers are going, and it's going to be awesome, but I couldn't get the funds together. It's just too expensive to fly an Aussie all the way to New York for an event like that. Yeah, sadly. Alright, see if this is extruding. So despite its initial complaints, the UP Mini seems to be printing the Cocoon Create PLA fine, which is really surprising. I expected that to not work. The UP Minis never used to print PLA properly. They always used to jam up. So the fact that that's working is a good sign.
Hey Angus.
Yes.
A quick question. Which is the worst printer you have used?
Buccaneer.
Yep, okay, called it.
Yeah. So the worst printer I've ever used was the Buccaneer, by all means. I mean, that never printed. I'm sorry. Like, I know the machine I had was old and had a few issues, but just forget it. It was just shocking. I have no respect for that company at all. Cool, alright, I'm going to print that again.
And I'll ask a question, because you love your questions.
Yep,
Okay,
I love
so,
questions.
Kevin asks, right now, what do you think of the UP Mini 2? Also, do you think open source printers are better always than closed source printers?
Alright, so the question is, what do I think of the UP Mini 2 and open source printers better than closed source printers? So, 2 questions. What do I think of the UP Mini 2 so far? I think it's awesome. The build volume is tiny. It's 120 millimeters cube. So you're not going to be printing anything large on it, but the quality is fantastic so far. I'm really happy with it. I've got my little Nerf. I've been working on the Nerf competition. I'm not gonna. I'll comment on the extension on that in a little bit, but I'll just show you. Actually, I'll show you in the better camera how that looks. This is the print off the UP Mini 2. This is in their own brand of ABS at 150 micron layers, and it's just awesome. Like there's no Z banding or ringing or anything like that. It just looks fantastic. But it is a small printer. It's only 120 millimeters cube. So if you're just doing that sort of thing, it's fantastic. But if you want to print bigger things, you're going to feel limited.
That would be awesome. Visiting unis around Australia like a tour.
That would be cool. I'd love to visit unis around Australia. That would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to visit unis around the world, to be honest. But I'm sort of focusing on Sydney at the moment. And there's the Friday Make League thing that's going to happen next Friday in the UNSW campus, the Michael Crouch Innovation Centre. So it's like a Friday thing. And I'm going to have to change the filament very quickly on the UP Mini 2. Interrupting myself again.
Okay. Just tell me when you need to concentrate and you can't answer questions. But yeah, one of them is from EGAM, who says about the Raise 3D printer. What do you think of their printers? Or the Prino? Is it? No, I don't know. Raise 3D. What do you think of them?
Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry guys. I was talking about the UP Mini 2 with the print volume. Look, I can't really answer any more questions about what do I think of X printer, because you can't really put me on the spot and expect a realistic answer. If I'm going to look at a printer that I want to recommend, I need to actually test it and research it. So Joel has his Raise printer and he's been testing it, so I would just look out for his review, to be honest. They look good, but the Buccaneer looked good, and we all know how that turned out. So yeah, I'm going to have to stop answering those questions because I can't give you a realistic response. It just doesn't make sense. So the UP Mini 2 is currently printing pretty good. And yeah, the Cetus seems to be working okay in the verbatim, which is surprising. And then this little sample just went flying. Lady Muse does miss Perth a little bit. We're coming back in Christmas, actually. So I'll be coming back in Christmas to Perth and probably visit the Frontier 3D. Who knows, all the Perth guys, we can catch up. That'd be fun. Yeah, it looks like it's working. Right, so I'm going to write on the eSun, works on the Cetus. Works on Cetus. So this will be good for the guys who backed the Cetus campaign. You can see what works and what doesn't. And verbatim also works on Cetus. Not UP Mini 2.
So Nick asks, did you see his take on the Cetus?
No, I haven't seen Nick's take on the Cetus. Sorry about that. I know a few other people got Cetuses for pre-production review and testing, but I haven't seen other people's. I know one other person was happy with it, but I haven't seen anyone else's experiences with it. Oh, that's a good question. Have I ever tried M3D's ABS-R filament? I haven't tried it, but do you know that's not actually ABS? And it's because ABS is difficult to print, and they decided to make a ABS-R instead, which is ABS replacement, so it doesn't acetone smooth. And I think it's actually a PETG. I'm not sure what it actually is made up of, but it's not ABS, that's for sure. And yeah, I haven't tried it, but that's just an interesting little bit of tidbit that you might like to know. What is the printer on the left? That is the UP Mini 2. You're looking at the back of it. So it's got doors on the front and back, and it's very hard to film the machine itself. But yeah, it seems to work. I mean, I can move it a little bit closer to the camera. Maybe. Not that doesn't really help. You're looking at the back of it, unfortunately.
Angus!
What?
Cheapest filament.
Cheapest filament? The cheapest filament is the filament that you can find that's the cheapest. I'm sorry, but I'm in Australia. People keep saying why I don't review Hatchbox filaments, because you can't buy it here. For me, the cheapest is eSun or Hobby King from their local warehouse. For you in America, it might be Hatchbox. It is literally whatever you can find that is the cheapest. I'm onto the fancy Red Bulls. Tropical edition. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Oh, dude. You didn't have to do that. Alright, the Red Bull's on Dustin. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. You gave me $5.
Yay!
A champ.
Tropical flavor.
Yeah, it's
no,
just...
give me. I want to try something.
Alright.
Okay.
Lady Muse is getting hooked on Red Bull too. Yeah. Alright, let's have a squeeze.
Oh my god, that is delightful.
Cool. Alright, well... I honestly expected the Cocoon Create, which is I think Wanhao, to not work on the UP Mini 2, but it's working. And the Verbatim seems to be working on the Cetus. So maybe I just got really unlucky when I chose the 4 rolls of PLA I tested on the Cetus initially, because 2 of them didn't work. And yeah, maybe I just got very unlucky. Alright, what to try next? Right, I think I'll try this one next. So, Dion over at the 3D printer, this is specifically designed to work on machines like the UP boxes and UP Mini 2 and that sort of thing. So he's asked me to test it to prove that it does work for him. So I will do that for him. So he sent me a very nice, very acid green actually, it's quite nice. Let's whip this open, see how it works.
Actually, that's a good question. Frank asked earlier about Aussie-made filaments. Are you familiar with any? And what are your
Aussie-made
thoughts on
filaments.
them? Yeah.
There's a few. You've got the Aurorum stuff, which I reviewed a while ago, and apparently it's gotten a lot better since I reviewed it. You've got 3D Phillies, which I don't know if they're still making filament. I think so, but that was a local company that made monofilament for fishing, and they started making filament for 3D printing. So that's Australian. Who else? I don't know. A lot of people bring it in. A lot of stuff in Australia is actually Chinese, but it doesn't mean it's not very good. But anyway, right, that's going to try this one. What's finished? Oh, the UP Mini's finished. That was quick. Let's have a look. There you go. So that's done at 0.3mm layers. I put Magigoo. I put Magigoo on the bed to try to stick down the nylon I was printing before, and it means that the PLA sticks really well to it now. I need a tool to break this off.
I told them your favorite filament color is fluoro pink.
It is.
Okay.
My favorite color is pink for filament. I love the... I mean, how can you disagree with that? It's just awesome. All right, so that's the Cocoon Create green, which seemed to work. I don't know where the side cutters have gone, so I can't break the raft off right now. Okay, 3dphillies.com. Thank you for that. I will check them out because they used to have a really good nylon when they first opened. All right.
Okay, some quick questions. First from Ben in 3D. Will you review the CraftBot Plus?
The CraftBot Plus has already been reviewed. You should go through my channel and search for it. I reviewed it probably 3 or 4 months ago. So yes, I will review the CraftBot Plus because I already have.
Okay, and Guru asks, my PLA got crispy all of a sudden. Does that mean it's too moist?
That's a good, yeah. If your PLA is becoming crispy and brittle, then yeah, PLA does sort of degrade if you leave it open for a while, probably because it's too moist.
I don't know, but filament becomes crispy when it becomes moist.
Yes, it becomes brittle. Yeah, PLA does become brittle. Not necessarily because it's moisture absorption, maybe because of UV damage. I don't know. You can try drying it out by putting it in a bag with lots of desiccants and leaving it for a while. I don't know. To be honest, I've never really done that. The eSun PLA that I just tested has definitely become more brittle than when I first bought it, but it seems to work okay. I don't know. Once it's at that point, I think it's just worth using it only for jobs that aren't very important, and then just using a brand that stays tough, like a Polymax or modified PLA that keeps a bit of strength. Although eSun does have a PLA Plus now, apparently, which I haven't tried. What am I doing? I am withdrawing filament. Right. Yeah, so someone was asking about the raft on the Up Mini 2. You don't need a raft on the Up Mini 2. That's just by default, so I'm going to turn it off next time. Yeah, because I don't want to... For this shape, you don't need it. You definitely don't need a raft. But it does mean your bottom layer has to be nice and dialed in, which it clearly wasn't at the start of this stream. Yeah, Luke's right. Some people do use a food dehydrator to suck the moisture out. You could try that with your PLA. It might help. Yeah, that could be it. But again, to be honest, I've never done that. I just use the filament. There we go. The only thing I'm very careful of moisture is polycarbonate ABS mixers. And so I'll keep them in a bag with desiccant, and nylon. Nylon is 100% moisture sensitive. If nylon gets moisture damaged, you may as well not bother printing with it till you dry it out again. Right.
Okay.
So, Cocoon Create works on the Up Mini 2. Good job, Cocoon. Or Wanhao. I'm just pretty sure it's Wanhao plastic. Works on Up Mini 2. By the way, I'm not advertising any of these companies. I'm just kind of testing them. No one's paid me any money for this stream, except Dustin. So technically, Dustin has sponsored this stream.
This stream is sponsored.
This stream is sponsored by the Jatman. Go subscribe to Dustin's channel. They're gonna get you even more subscribers.
Cities asks, is this a quick question? Because I'm sure the answer is no. Did you ever get the Buccaneer working?
You can answer that for me.
So that is a big fat no.
Alright, just gonna load this up. Yeah, so there's a good reason the Buccaneer is currently up in that area up on the wall. That's my new 3D printer wall, by the way. It's because it's a prop. and it's a prop because it doesn't work. That's why it's there. The Trinus works, and the Up Mini 2 works. The Wanhao will work, and same with the TiVo. But the Buccaneer is literally a prop. It looks good, but it doesn't work. Throw it in the ocean. Nah, I'm not going to throw that sort of trash in the ocean. I'm so bad. They're probably crying into their pillows right now. I have no respect for them.
Busy grinding their teeth and clutching their pearls, going, oh, that Makers Muse.
I'm pretty sure they went bankrupt. They didn't deliver more than 75% of their products. It's just no respect. What type of high wind linear rails are on the Cetus? At a guess, I would say, let's have a look. I'd say they're the, 12 or 15 millimeters? Let me just measure for you.
Oreo Gaming asks, quick question, did you back the Tico?
No.
I guess that's bad.
You can tell them. Yeah. So the Cetus has 12 millimeter high wind rails. There you go. And no, I did not back the Tico. The only campaigns I've ever backed, I backed the MicroView, which is a little tiny Arduino with a screen, which is still in its box, sadly. And I backed the Bevel smartphone scanner, which has yet to be delivered, which is great. And I backed the 101 Hero, which is the really cheap 3D printer. I did start reverse engineering it, but again, ran out of time. And I backed the Bunker, but I'm not sure they're going to get funded at this stage. I mean, I think personally the Bunker is an awesome product for stuff like this, that I'm testing filaments, so I don't have to be there watching it. It can tell me when things stop extruding. But it seems to be that the general consensus is it's too expensive for hobbyists, which is fair enough. I mean, I wouldn't see it being used for hobbyists. I'd honestly see it being used by schools and universities and those sort of institutions, but they're unlikely to back a Kickstarter, I think. So, I don't know. But that's what I've backed on Kickstarter.
Angus?
Yeah?
This question has popped up in various areas as well. So what happened to the Tarantula review part 2?
Yeah, no, just going back to the Tarantula, guys, it's just a time thing. The Tarantula needs more time to make it work properly, and I haven't had time to finish it. Therefore, the part 2 will happen when I get time to finish it. So it may be still a couple of weeks, but I'm not going to rush it, because I feel the review has to be as in-depth as the first part, where I talked about the assembly process. So to make the Tarantula work properly, I need to print a fan for it to cool the PLA. I need to test that and make sure it's all dialed in and squared. So it probably just needs like maybe 4 hours of my time, but it's just about that time getting it to it. And same goes with the 404 villain. It's just time, which I haven't had. I've been moving into this space, I've been doing training and consultations, and there has not been any time. So I'm going to start printing this 3D printer green PLA on the Up Mini 2. So print, and I will turn the raft off this time to make it print a bit quicker. Hopefully the nozzle height's correct. Again, like I said at the start of the stream, I stuffed the nozzle height up by trying to print nylon and making it really close, and the nylon still didn't work, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so Gia asked, have you ever considered modifying one of your Wanhao i3 machines? Someone else said you have indeed modified one of the extruders, but have you ever thought about doing any further modifications?
Yeah, so with the Wanhao i3, you can do a serious amount of mods to it, because it's all roughly based on hardware that's freely available, Mark 10 extruder, Melzi board, that sort of thing. So the only modification I've done, well actually to be fair, it is fairly heavily modified. My Cocoon Create, which is the Wanhao i3 version 2, has the Flexion extruder, which just is beautiful, and it has the print bite surface, so the parts come off nicely. And that's the one thing I hate about the Up printers. Their beep noise is so obnoxious. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, where was I? I've modified it with the surface and the extruder, but I haven't done any of the stiffening options like the threaded rod triangulation. But I haven't had to. It does what it needs to do, and for me, it's more than enough. I haven't made an enclosure for it because I feel if I enclosed it, all the electronics would overheat. But yeah, I don't know. And can the Upbox use flexible filament? Maybe. Depends on the brand. I would probably say you got a 50-50 chance of it working because the extruder has a gap, so it might jam. Yeah. Yeah, I've got about 5 printers to review, and I can't rush it because then I give everyone a bad impression or an unfair review. And yeah, I mean, like Chuck found with his printer and the issues, if I review a printer only by testing a few benchies on it, and then a week later it catches fire, but I've already made a review, then it makes me look like an idiot. So that's why I review printers over a course of a few weeks to make sure they're very in-depth. So the Up Mini I've been testing for ages, the Up Mini 2, and that review is only going to come out next week because I've spent the time to test it.
Here's a uni-related one, actually. Is UNSW good for getting a master's degree in engineering? I think I'm going to Australia to study. So, we know you actually studied at UTS, but what do you think of degrees in Australia for engineering?
Okay, so that's actually a good question about study. So I was actually thinking about it today, what I got out of my degree at UTS doing industrial design. And I looked through, thought back to the projects I did and what I learnt. To be completely honest, and I'm not devaluing universities at all, the stuff that I did could have been learnt outside of university in a very well-embraced work environment with mentors. But the thing university did teach me was time management. I'm hesitant because I'm still not the best at it, but it did teach me how to manage projects, and it taught me how to network. And they say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you're good at something and you're at a university, you will meet the people who will push you into your careers. 100%. If you're passionate about something, those people will gravitate to you and you'll find yourself in a fantastic position. Whereas if you try to do it on your own, you don't meet those people. So in terms of going back to your question about engineering, UNSW, yes, it does engineering. It's pumping out engineers heaps. Like they got every faculty covered. But then UTS would just be as good. University of Sydney is probably just as good. But I would say if you're coming to Australia to study, you'd have to really want to. What am I saying here? I guess the engineering fields in Australia are very much linked to Australia. Would you agree?
Yeah, in my experience, a lot of the engineering is based around the mining industry.
Yeah,
but that's
mining and petroleum. Yeah. So the mining and petroleum in Australia is huge. Like civil engineering at UNSW, you'll get a huge paycheck if you complete your degree, but you'll be sent off to some middle of nowhere project. Yeah, that was a bit of a ramble. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I do stick to my guns saying that university is not, your degree and what you make of it, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think that's really important. And university is a great way to network. Moving on. Sorry. Let's see if this is printing. Oh, there we go. Alright. So that's the verbatim. Keep in mind I'm printing extremely fast at 0.3, so these are going to look pretty rough. But that's not really the point. The point is to verify if the filament works or jams. So the verbatim did work. It's a pretty rough print. It's pretty rough, but it did print. And my shoelace is undoing itself. Alright.
So, Soul of Gummy asked a while ago, any advice with Delta printers? They're trying to make their own custom one. Like Shiva Wolf gave some good advice on it, and I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on it, like Delta printers.
Yeah, Delta print. So, to be honest, I have never built a Delta printer. I've only worked on one a while ago. My main advice would be to make the frame extremely rigid and resistant to torsion, so it can't twist on itself. That would be my main advice. Stop that from happening, and also be prepared to spend ages calibrating it, because it's very important for the 3 arms. But yeah, and also don't make your Bowden tube too long. That's another thing. Don't be tempted to make a huge printer with a long Bowden tube, because the longer a Bowden extruder is, the less effective it is. And you might need to go 3 millimeters, because 3mm filament, or 2.85, is better for a long Bowden feed than 1.75. That would be my advice. What is going on?
Just some blubbertree.
Blubbertree. Okay. Withdraw. You're meant to be helping, not distracting. God. Minions, man. Yeah. Just go.
Check it out, Chivel. Yeah, they're talking to me now.
Oh, they're just talking. Why don't you host the stream then? Going back to UNSW topic, they do have the solar car challenge, which is pretty cool, which you can get involved in if you're an engineer. And they got lots of really cool other community-based projects you can get involved in while you're here, which is one thing that's neat about UNSW. Right. What should I print next? Let's try that. So this is Voltivo XL Fill, and the guys are really quite keen for me to test this out over at Voltivo, and I haven't even opened it, so let's have a look. I assume this doesn't need a heated bed, but I have no idea. There we go. So it looks like a 800 gram, it's a bit of an unusual size. 800 gram filament, got a PR code for quality. They did specifically tell me to look at certain settings. But I don't know if I have time to. Right. Right, there's that. Let's have a look.
3D Creation Labs asks, do you use Thingiverse often?
Right.
I don't think you do you?
I use My Mini Factory.
He uses My Mini Factory.
I just go a bit closer to the mic.
Oh, yeah. Moose asks, does Simplify 3D support slicing textured objects for RGB printing?
No. Okay. So yeah, guys. As you might have detected in my little MakerBot rant thing, Thingiverse, in my opinion, is too difficult to search. My Mini Factory is a little bit better, not fantastic, but that's what I tend to go to these days. I tend to search on My Mini Factory first to find things. But again, I mean, I'm only doing that to find test files to test my printers. I always try to design things for printing. I don't just print random stuff. Right, is that going to extrude? Extrude. Right, I'm just going to have to see what this this XL filament recommended settings is. One moment. So recommended temperatures is 230 degrees, and yeah, has a temperature stability of 95 degrees Celsius, higher than PLA's normal temperature. Okay. Yeah, let's give it a shot. So I'm going to change my print settings to be a bit hotter. You can change the temperatures in the new UP Studio software and then try printing that. So Rob's asking, when you said you're aiming to show more of a design making of objects, what software are you looking at showing people in? So I am looking at using Fusion 360. So I've shifted my attention from Onshape to Fusion 360 for two reasons. One is, even though Onshape's really amazing and I really like it, it's still, you're limited to the server-based aspect of it. It's a bit like Tinkercad. You have to do something, wait for the server to respond. It's a bit of a latency to that. And I've gotten to the point where I click around and I want to do things quicker than the server can do. The second reason is Fusion 360 supports importing of a lot more formats. You can import mesh files now because of the integration of Mesh Mixer. You can do better stuff with DXFs or Illustrator files. And also the main reason is Fusion 360 seems to be more popular with the overall community rather than Onshape. So I'm still going to use Onshape myself, and I might use it in future videos, but I'm trying to focus on Fusion 360 now for these new design tutorials. And I've already done a few projects, and I've already recorded one video which will come live on Tuesday or something like that. But yeah, that's what I'm going to focus on. So, Mesh Mixer for file fixing and Fusion 360 for design. Definitely. Did that extrude? Yes?
So Ben in 3 asks, will you look into the palette filament feeding system? Or do you think it's not worth the money?
Why is this not extruding? Yeah, the palette is pretty cool. Definitely as a way of making multicolor prints with a single extruder. Look, honestly, there's so many different 3D printing projects at the moment. Like, there's the palette. Even looking at multicolor, there's the palette, there's the Prometheus system, and there's the various other, like, diamond hot ends and all those. I haven't had time to really dig deep into them, but who knows? Once they hit the market and people start using them, maybe we'll get a little bit more information. But personally, color means nothing to me. I don't print stuff for the need of multicolors. I print stuff for a purpose or a function, and if I do want color, I'll paint it, I suppose. I don't really need to change color in a print. Well, so far the 3D printer premium generic filament PLA is working beautifully on the UP Mini 2, like really nicely, and the XL Fill Evo is extruding nicely 3D printing on the Cetus. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, how long do we have in this stream?
Probably going to end in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
I'd love to go on longer, but I've got things to do. Right.
Okay, so Angus.
Yes.
What do you think of detachable Z probes? There have been a few designs, and I wonder if you have tried any.
What's what?
Detachable Z probes, or maybe Z axis.
Z probes. Oh, like it's an education experience for Minion. Yeah. So I guess the question would be about nozzle probes, like Z height. I haven't actually used any ones that are detachable. I've only used ones that come with printers, so I haven't like custom added any. My experience so far is I'm very old school. I like to do things manually. I guess because I was doing it for like 2 years as a daily job, I am quite comfortable doing that and leveling beds myself. But the UPs use a touch probe, which is very delicate in terms of if there's any filament dags on the extruder, on the nozzle, then that throws it off, as we just saw. But yeah, the touch probe on the Cubicon style seemed to work really well for me. That was a conductive style pad, and I think what's it called? Not Kevox. There's too many printers. Whatever. There's another printer that does that too, but I haven't used any detachable ones yet, and it's worth looking into. Yeah. So Luke's talking about an infrared Z probe. That's definitely working with.
Johnny asks, how do you know any tools which help you calculate how many meters of filament you have left on a roll? It would be useful for people using their printers as a service.
Yeah, so the question's about how to work out how much filament's left on a roll. And again, I'm sorry, but it goes back to like the bunker on Kickstarter. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to keep track of how much filament you've got left. So there's slicers that will give you a weight estimate, and then I guess you could deduct it from the roll and write it on a spreadsheet or something. But realistically, who does that? So the only way I can think of it is actually by having a system that manages the filament directly, and that would have to be something like a smart spool holder, or at least a printer that I guess has a cartridge or something. Like the Roboxes have little RFID tags on their rolls, and you don't have to use their rolls, but if you do, the RFID will tell the printer what roll it is and how much filament's left on that roll, which is a good system as well. So they're the ones I've seen work pretty well. But if you're doing it for a service, you may as well go the extra mile paying for a system that saves you filament. Yeah. And yeah, someone just said put it on a scale. Absolutely. You can put it on the scale, you just need to know how much the actual spool itself weighs. So when you finish a roll, keep the spool, weigh it, and then deduct that number from the incomplete spool. Then you can do it that way. So that's a clever way to do it.
Okay, so Angus?
Yeah.
Jack mentioned a while ago that he knows you're limited on options, but in his experience, the metal spool stand by Hatchbox, which is on Amazon Prime for $10, he says it's nice and heavy and works well. I have 3 myself.
Hatchbox?
Yeah.
Spool holder?
Yeah, metal spool stand.
Okay.
By Hatchbox.
Yeah, I'll check that out. To be honest, the lack of spool holders here is mostly laziness. It's all about, you never really know you need something until you need it, and then it's too hard to get. So I will need to make a spool holder solution for all these rolls. And I keep moving things. I mean, look, a new studio. I have spool holders back at my old place, but they're not here. Stuff like that.
And that has an early question to ask on that topic. Is like, do you recommend any 3D printed models for spool holders?
Well, in terms of if you're trying to 3D print a spool holder, I can find the link to the one I got off My Manufacturing. I just went to My Manufacturing and searched spool holder, and that's what this one is. I'll just pull it up. That's what this one was. So this is an all-in-one design. I printed this on the Cetus because the Cetus doesn't have a spool holder. So it's printed like that, and this was just there. And this seems to work really well. It's a clever design. It's all-in-one. You don't have to add anything. There's no fasteners. Yeah, it's starting to rain. There's people running around everywhere. So this was the 3D printer generic PLA. And yeah, if Dion's watching this, or you end up watching the recording, Dion, it works beautifully. So yeah, you can start selling it. Because I know you had some issues with his previous type of PLA, but this one worked really well. It still kind of did a rafty thing though. I don't know, the UP software's weird like that. Did a little ring even though I said raftless. Yeah, works pretty good. Right, I think I'll commit one more to the UP Mini. See how we go. So that's changed over. What are you giggling at? The one thing about the UP software that really annoys me is it keeps wanting you to register and log in. And why should I log into software every time I plug my printer in? Do not agree with that. Okay, let's withdraw. Yep. Let's try this stuff. This is Filamentum PLA Extra Fill. So I've tried Filamentum on my Wanhao i3 Plus, and it worked awesome. So hopefully it works awesome on the UP Mini too, as well. Let's find out. Yes.
No, I'm just watching.
You're just watching. Is the Cetus air printing? Quite possibly. It might not be printing hot enough for the filament I just gave it. Yes, it is. Alright. So, I will stop the Cetus. Well spotted. That's why I keep you guys around. Yeah, so I obviously didn't have the temperature high enough for this. I'll try it on a different printer another time. But yes, so that did not work.
Coastal Labs asks, have you created any Franken-printers where none of the original parts except the frame remains? I think the answer to this is no, but that sounds like a good idea.
Sort of. I'll come back to that one in a second. Yeah. I think I just needed to print hotter for that one. And you can see it's just not hot enough. It wasn't clicking, it just, yeah, not enough heat. So yeah, Franken-printers, sort of, in Perth, we had a Mancati, and that was a piece of crap. It just never worked. So I think Tim is in the process of converting it over to like stripping everything out and putting a new board in and redoing it. So yeah, like that printer was just ripped apart and put back together so many times. Nothing except the original frame remains, basically. Alright, so how's that for fancy? It's foil wrapped. This is the Filamentum filament. It's a resealable bag. How awesome's that? People need to do resealable bags for filament more often. Oh, damn it. Except you needed... Alright, I'll try that again. It's a bit like how the Cocoon Create filament came in a bag where they'd heat sealed it below the resealable join. This is done properly. The Cocoon Create stuff wasn't done properly. So we can reuse this bag, which is cool. Alright. Oh, look at that. What do you reckon, Ash?
Ooh, shiny.
That's nice. So this is the... Yeah, thank you. This is the Filamentum PLA. How cool is that? Look at that wind. Alright, let's try this.
Shibble says they use a food vacuum sealer for their filaments, and I've seen a couple at Harvey Norman. Is it Harvey Norman? Not Harvey Norman. You know, the big electronic shops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of vacuum sealer machines there as well, so that could be a good solution.
Yeah, a vacuum seal is actually a pretty good idea. Because you want to suck the air out, and then that'll vacuum pack it. So that's actually a pretty good idea. There's no point reinventing the wheel with like a filament wrappy bag machine. You may as well just adapt what already exists. Okay, let's try this. Yep.
Angus?
Yes.
Question from a while back. I'm terrible with questions. So Nightcook asks, stainless steel nozzle or hardened steel for abrasive materials? I think this was a question.
Okay. Extrude. Yeah, so the question's about abrasive materials and what sort of nozzle you should use. Should you use a stainless steel or a hardened steel? From what I understand, the hardened steel will be a longer wearing nozzle, but then you run the risk of rust because it will possibly rust. And stainless steel is a terrible, it's terrible for heat distribution. The thermal, again, I didn't study engineering, but the thermal conductivity of it is really bad. So for stainless steel nozzles, you're going to have to slow your printing speed down because the nozzle will struggle to stay at temperature. And then the steel ones are not as bad, but they're not as good. That's why there was this tungsten nozzle on Kickstarter, which is like very, very hard, but also quite good at maintaining a good temperature. So yeah, I would say if you're not printing in conductive filaments very often, go stainless steel. But if you're doing conductive filaments constantly, I'd go with a hardened steel. That's what I'd do. Or do what Luke does and buy heaps of cheap nozzles. That's what I do. I just buy heaps of cheap brass ones and just let them get destroyed. It seems to work pretty well. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an alternative. Or you can use a chrome-plated nozzle. I think the Micro Swiss ones are that. That might be the best of both worlds. So Rob's asking, what are the signs of moisture in PLA and the signs of the print? You'll notice the print surface becomes quite rough, like more than it would normally, almost like it's got a really rough texture because the water's boiling out. Also, the filament will be very brittle as well. You'll notice it becomes very brittle. You snap it, you can just get your finger and flick it and it just snaps. That's a sign of water damage, moisture absorption in your filament, so you may need to dry it out. So yeah, it definitely could be the weather. Why is this not extruding?
Okay, Jack states to watch the filamentum when you print it. The top layer after the nozzle passes has an interesting color look to it. At least one dark colors it does. Alright. At least on dark colors it does. Sorry, I didn't read that properly.
Right. Withdraw. No, wait, stop. Extrude. So what was the about filamentum? What was?
So, he's basically saying watch it while you print it because the top layer after the nozzle passes has an interesting color or a look to it. But at least this is on dark colors. So just something to observe and, note for yourself.
Okay. So you're saying the color changes as it moves? I'll watch that. I don't know. That's interesting. What are we waiting for? Waiting for printers to warm up and change filament. Why are they doing anything? This new UP software is really not that great. Alright, it's warming up. So it's warming up at about a rate of about 5 degrees per second. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Nothing more fun than waiting for a print head to warm up. Why is nothing happening?
What's the issue?
There we go. Just need a little bit of coaxing into place. Hey Bruce, good to see you. What's the worst filament I've ever used? I don't know if there's actually been a worst. I mean, there's been filaments that just don't work, but it's not really the filament's fault. It's more of the printer. We did get some really crap stuff from eBay about 2 years ago. Some black ABS, which was just awful. It would bubble and spit and terrible. I've gotten some stuff that the diameter would change again. It was just from eBay, just terrible quality. But recently, not really. I mean, all filament seems to work. You can usually dial it in. You say the robot arm moves when I'm not looking.
Yeah, weeping angel style from Doctor Who.
That's terrifying.
Okay, Lucas also asks, so this is a technical question.
Alright.
So he's upgrading his Algebra i3 to a diamond hot end. So he's forced to go Bowden. How long a Bowden tube is too long, and what is the minimum suggested turn radius for 1.75 millimeters?
If you're upgrading your i3 to a diamond hot end, one, make sure you've got enough stepper drivers free for your different feeds. And honestly, for a Bowden like that, you're not going to worry. For an i3 style, the bed's pretty small. The reach is going to be pretty good. I mean, you're looking at a tube about that long, I'd say, just roughly, maybe like 45. Have a look at the TiVo Tarantula they've got over there. So that tube's probably about 45 centimeters long, 40 or so, and that's just got no issue at all. So yeah, you'll be okay with that. In terms of a bend for 1.75, obviously you don't want it to do like a really tight bend, but just grab some filament and just have a feel for it naturally. You'll know you can't really force a Bowden tube to kink itself unless you really try hard. So just make sure the path's free, and I'd say 40 centimeters, depending on the size of your printer. I mean, some of the guys in the chat might be able to chime in a little bit more. My experience with Bowden extruders is fairly limited. I've never really gone with anything fancy or long travel paths or trying to get tight radii. Why is that? It is warming up. Just waiting for things to warm up. Such fun. There we go.
The cookers come back in discussion again. Okay, well, can you print with a robot arm? Are they that precise?
So the question's about the robot arm again, and if it's precise enough to print. Yeah, it would be. It depends on the reach. Like the accuracy does change depending on where the arm is. Someone was mentioning polar 3D printers before. Same idea, I guess. The further out it is from an axis, like on a rotation, you only got such increments, and if it's further out, the increments are larger than if you're closer in. But I mean, to be completely honest, I'm not a mechatronics engineer. The kinematics of making that work is beyond me. But I have seen it done. I have seen people adapt robot arms to usually make very large 3D printers with big hoppers and extruders, and I've seen that work. So I'm going to try. Yeah, I mean, this should work. This is Tier Time's own brand of PLA. So in theory, that should work on their printer, right? It will work.
Okay, Angus?
Yes.
We're going to start winding down now. Stop breaking everything.
Yes,
we're going to start winding down now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
Let's see.
We'll get a mic for you next time.
We need a mic. So Mike asks a question about the Cetus, the nozzle. Is it a standard nozzle you've seen before, or is it something they've custom made for the machine?
Yeah, so about the Cetus, where's my little baggie? It's somewhere. The Cetus nozzle's completely custom. There's nothing standard about it. It's completely designed from scratch. It has a peak cover. I had a bag of. They sent me 2 extra ones. I had a bag of them to show you. There's this stuff everywhere. Here we go. Here you go. All right, so this is the Cetus nozzle. If you can actually see it, there you go. So it's an all-in-one thing. It's got a peak shield at the tip, which is really clever in my opinion because it stops the filament sticking to a hot nozzle. Like only the tip is visible when it's in the extruder. So only that tip is uncovered. And it's got this peak sort of sleeve that feeds in. So it's a bit of an adaptation to the Teflon line nozzles. But the issue I think with this extruder, with this nozzle design, is this extended sort of extended brass area. Oh, it's raining. Excellent. And I think that's where the jams are happening. I think some brands of PLA soften too much, and then they jam there because that's threaded onto the heat block. So yeah, the Cetus is completely non-standard, and this is what the nozzles look like. So if you're worried about changing people running fast, if you're worried about changing nozzles, yeah, the Cetus will come with 3 different nozzle diameters, so 0.2, 0.4, and 0.6. They've told me that you don't need to change anything in software, like you just change the nozzle, which makes no sense. So I'm going to question them about that. But yeah, you won't be able to use like a standard 6 or 7, like M6 or M7 threaded like E3D nozzle. It won't work. It's completely different. Are we getting extrusion? Maybe. I feel like a DJ. I'm like hot swapping printers to make them work. Like while one's extruding, I swap the other. You don't need to in the new software, but I've only got one spare USB port, so I do need to. Alright. So I'm going to kick off another print, and then we're going to start to wind up.
Okay, so another question. So 3D Creations Lab asked that for their first printer, should they get a kit like the TiVo or a pre-built one? I don't mind tinkering with either.
So for a first 3D printer, if you're really unsure, I would highly recommend checking out my eBook, plug, about how I compare kits to ready to run. I really do feel that a ready to run printer is valuable if you're just trying to dive right in, because a kit has such a learning curve to get going. And if you've never put together an electronics product before, like a CNC machine or anything like that, you will have a bit of a hard time putting it together. But on the other hand, a kit will teach you so much. If you can put it together, you will know how your printer works on the inside out. So honestly, it comes down to what you feel you could do. Do you want a printer that will work in 15 minutes, or do you want a printer that will probably take you a couple of weekends to put together, and then probably a couple of weekends more to tweak to get going? That's how I'll answer it. It's really pissing down. It really is. All right. Is this working? Yeah, that seems to work. Okay. I'm just going to send something to this Cetus. Any more questions?
I think that was it. I think I've got a bonus question, actually.
Bonus.
Someone asked this a while ago, but I thought that would be a good question to wind it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would also be a good video to make near the end of the year, which is, what is your favorite Kickstarter 3D printing project of 2016?
Yeah, so, I mean, the question again is about Kickstarters. I don't really want to be known as the guy that reviews Kickstarters, but it's kind of what's happened. So yeah, I might consider doing a wrap-up of what I think the best Kickstarter campaigns are. But to be honest, I don't want to give a Kickstarter campaign credit before they've delivered, because there's been too many scams and too many failures. And really, I mean, when I say like, should you back it, it's just more of a sort of a unanswered question. I'm not saying in my videos that, you know, it's up, you should take my word as like that of God and back something if I've backed it. But yeah, I might do a video follow-up of what I think was the best Kickstarter campaign. Really, in my opinion, a good Kickstarter campaign is something that disrupts the industry, something that delivers, and something that is actually well documented and well communicated throughout the entire campaign. That's what I think makes a good campaign. And yeah, so far, I think, to be honest, the 101 Hero might be that one, because it looks like they're already assembling their printers, and I thought it was a scam. So that, yeah, who knows? That could be interesting. Cool, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here, I think. I'm going to kick some more things off, but yeah, I mean, this is fun. I mean, we can stream here as many times as we like, but this is going to be the regular stream on Makers Muse. And a couple of things. A few of you asked about my t-shirt, so I do have a Makers Muse t-shirt that I wear in a couple of my videos. We've now got an online store through Redbubble where you can buy a t-shirt if you like. By all means, you don't have to, but we put it up there in case anyone wants it, and I'll put a link in the video description when this video gets uploaded into an archive. And also, if you want to support the channel, which a lot of you are, which I do really appreciate, you can go onto Patreon and help support Makers Muse by pledging a certain amount of money per month, and that helps me get fed and bring you awesome content, which I really like doing. And also, if you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. But I There's no subscribe button there. It's down there. But I assume most of you have already subscribed because you're here on the stream. So thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate it. It was lots of fun. And thank you for joining me testing random filaments. And I will be sharing my results with you in a future video. And yeah, look forward to seeing you again very shortly here on Makers Muse. Catch you later, guys. Bye-bye.